Hi, my name is Karen Holmes. I'm the founder and director of the World Peace Organization for the One World Government. In A Manual for Peace, the first book I channeled with Seth, he says that from 2008 until 2012, all the cycles lined up. So, because change it's the spiritual hierarchy, the spirit works in cycles, and because of that, change only occurs easily at the beginning or the end of a cycle. So this is a time of a great many changes. So from those two, in that short period of time, all the cycles lined up. That is in the Bible when it talks about that it was some unknown time when the end of the world would happen. That was it right there, that time period. So we're playing out all these different cycles. Well, yesterday I came across an interesting one, an interesting video, and it was by Cash Peters. He calls himself the English Channel, and he talked about a video that he had seen from a woman who had said that Pluto is the we're parallel to, the American history is parallel to Pluto, and it's come back again. It's the beginning of a new cycle. So if we look at Pluto orbits the sun every 245 years or so. If we go back and look at that time period, what's significant is 2021. If you take Pluto's orbit and we subtract that from where we are now, we come to 1776. And so Pluto in the orbit, astrologically speaking, is influencing what's happening now in the United States and American history. And when you look at 1776 and compare it to now, they're talking about revolution, they're talking about there's rabble rousers and things like that. So now I wanted to compare this, and I looked back. I am in the organization. We're parallel to countries, but we're also parallel to times in history, and people in history. And I am parallel to. I have three parallels, and I'm parallel to John Adams. So several years ago, when this came out, I got this book about John Adams and about the Boston Massacre trial. That he said that was the most difficult thing that he'd ever done, is to stand up and defend the British soldiers who had been in the Boston Massacre, who had fired on the American colonists. That triggered this trial that John Adams, he stood up and defended those people, the British soldiers, which was the most difficult thing he ever did, because he was an attorney, basically a lawyer, who basically believed so much in the law that he stood up and did what he believed was right to defend the principles of the legal system. So I am parallel to John Adams, but my government proposal is the exit strategy for Iraq. I have to stand up and defend the right of Saddam Hussein to have, and I'm also parallel to my family. The events in my family are parallel to Iraq. So I'm going through the same crisis on a personal level that happened. So all of the people in our organization, the independent members, will be like playing out these events with this influence of Pluto coming down on us. So when we are looking at American history and we're saying, okay, we're getting a glimpse into what happened in the past. Were the rabble rousers at the Boston Massacre, what side were they actually on? Were they we're looking now at what's happening with Donald Trump supporters. So Donald Trump believes, he said he has called himself a king. Okay, so where are all these influences occurring now with this influence, this very far away influence from Pluto? And what's ironic about Pluto is that they don't even scientists don't consider it to be a planet. They consider it to be a possibly even a black hole. Is it a black hole that's going around out there? So where we have right now is whatever it is out there, it's influencing what's happening in American history now. So when I looked back that 245 years ago to the time of the Boston Massacre, and what was happening at that time period was I had introduced this government proposal, and in 2012 I had talked about this idea about the exit strategy for Iraq, and I put the government proposals online and the planning for it, and track our progress on our website. But what happened then was 245 years. We had at that point in time, the time period would have been the Boston Massacre was in March of 1770. And October 17th, 1770 was the trial. Well, that was in 2015. So what happened in American history in 2015? The U.S. Now we're talking about American history, but we're talking about the process that goes to create the international government. We're taking the U.S. Constitution and we're talking about taking it to the next level. So the cycle of our American Revolution is 245 years, but now we're taking it to the next level to create the Constitution. So the revolution is basically on letting go of what we don't like here and then working to create what we do want up here. And that is applying the Constitution on the U.S. Constitution on the international level to end wars, to bring 1,000 years of peace. So that's the whole idea. But what happened in that time period, when 245 years after the Boston Massacre and the trial, and it's a very interesting event occurred, and that was when Barack Obama went to Stonehenge. Our organization is working to do that. So now he went to Stonehenge, and our exit strategy for Iraq will end the genocide that's going on, that started with the Iraq War. We're going to end the genocide starting with my books, and then with the Oxford and Stonehenge, where we talk about unification and conflict resolution. Right now, there's such a schism here that's going on in the world. It's sending off the genocide that started with the Iraq War is sending off ripples of effects. You can read this all in my 2012 planning. It's sending off ripples of effects, and including the pandemic. It affects everyone. This is a global genocide that's going on that's affecting everyone. So we're looking at how the influence of the Pluto is affecting the cycle of Pluto. We're at 1776 this year, but in 2015, Barack Obama went to, right after a NATO summit, where they probably talked about the creation of the international government and how they were looking at this. He went to Stonehenge. He went to England and went to Stonehenge. So that was a parallel to that, where they're starting to talk about how to do this. Now, so right now we are living American history. We are talking about the rebellion. We're talking about the revolution. The Trump supporters are talking about the revolution, but they're which revolution are they talking about? Are they talking about they're against this idea? But the people in that time period, there were people, the loyalists, who didn't want revolution. They were willing to do this. So we're looking at this whole thing, American history. We are living American history now. We are the founding events, and we have this great insight into what happened at that time period because we're living it. So, you in high school or junior high school, unless you really like history, it just goes right over your head a lot of times, those classes, 1776, and you love the 4th of July and things like that. It's like history for the masses, so to speak. But and then there's the people who dig deeper into history and learn more and more and more and more about it and understand it. But right now, we have a great opportunity to understand that we are living history and the American Revolution. So are we going to be loyalists like Donald Trump supporters who are going to interfere with this idea? They're going to start this rebellion, but the American people, do we need to have a fight? Do we need to have a revolution? Or can we live? Do we need to have actually fighting? Do we have to have a war? Or can we debate this in the halls of Congress? Can we debate this in public opinion? If the Republican Party, there's this flip-flop going on. If Donald Trump and his loyalists are loyal to the King Trump, like George III, they're loyal to him and the old structure, where are they in their evolution? The Republican Party is proud. They're proud of the fact that they're the party of the Constitution. They're upholding the Constitution. But the Democrats, hey, they don't know anything about the Constitution. They don't like their country or whatever. Is that kind of how it is, what they say? But everybody loves the Constitution. It's just the Democrats don't talk about it as much as that. They just live it. Okay? So, and it's the same thing with religion. You have the people who go out and say, I love God, and but they don't necessarily live that idea. All right, so here we are. We're living American Revolution. The American Revolution. We're getting insights into what it is. We are being influenced year after year by Pluto, and we have all of this understanding about where we are today in American history based on Pluto. So I ask that you like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to put down in the box below, comment box or description box below. I'm going to put some information about the Library of Congress, where you can get step-by-step information about American history. They have kind of, so you can understand where we are. Pluto orbits the sun every 245 years. So now we are parallel to 1776. Okay? Go back and look at the Declaration of Independence. Go back and look at how Pluto has influenced us in the past. Okay, so 245 years, the Boston Massacre, when we talked about, when we were talking about, like I said, we were talking about the rabble-rousers and what was happening. Now, the plan for the international government originally came out in 2003. At our prayer circle, it started out in 1999. I channeled a book called A Manual for the One World Government in 1999. So this is a time period of a lot of changes. So I'm going to put the Library of Congress link, and then I'm also going to put the Cash Peters link on there so you can understand, you can go back and read what he's talking about, how these momentous changes are occurring in American history over the next 6 months, but they've been going on for a long time. All right, so I ask that you like, share, and subscribe, and join the debate. Share this with your friends. Share this information with your friends. Help them understand. If you're watching this, help them understand that the schism that occurred. We're living in American history, but we don't necessarily have to fight a war over it. We're taking the Constitution to the next level, and then soon we're going to be talking about the influences from Pluto are going to start to shift everything over and over again, and we're going to have it's already, I have members in 87 countries, so it's already being talked about. They like the idea. So this is something that's happening, and even if it does, it will happen here, but even if it doesn't, it'll happen someplace else. But it'll just come under a different idea, a different cycle. All right, so like, share, and subscribe, but most of all, share, because this is important for the world and for your friends to understand how the schism is playing out. Join the debate with the idea that you're living American history. Okay, maybe even write some books about it from your share of it. What it was like to be a farmer, what it was like to be somebody who's working. Who were the people who actually were there at the Boston Massacre? Was it the Loyalists? Or was it the Sons of Light? Or was it somebody else? Were they trying to control the outcome? If people were talking about liberty, if the Sons of Liberty came up, what about the people who were going to override this idea and say, we're rabble-rousers, we're going to do this, like the idea of the international government has come out and in 2012, and they're talking about it in Congress, and they're talking about it, but we need to stop the revolution, so we're going to make it as illegal looking as possible. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Is who's trying to stop it? Can you stop a revolution by getting people arrested? Okay, who would want to stop it?